Okay, welcome back to your part 3 of the Salvador Dali practice. We added highlights. We're now going to highlights another layer. We're going to blend them in. And we're going to start kind of like fading and going over like the areas that we've left dark as well. So we're definitely going to be working on pressure with that blender. All right, so I'm going to start on the nose once again. Small circles. I am trying to keep the shape a little bit and then I'll fade out past the shape. Okay, so now is when we're going to start adjusting our pressure. So the bottom of the nose is like a dark mid-tone. Therefore, but I'm still avoiding the edge because I want to keep the separation for now. We'll go back and kind of refine that a little bit more. So I'm getting really close to the edge of the nose. And I still feel like that's a little bit dark, but we'll do some comparisons at the end. Okay, on the right-hand side of the face. I'm going to move in a little bit just because I know there's not a dark outline to that nose. Okay, kind of fading what I added into what I had before. Okay, now super gently going over the darker parts that we left alone. So going all the way to the edge of the face. We're going to blend all the way up to the edge of the eye, and we're going to, obviously we're leaving the waterline alone because we'll have to go back and add that. I'm going to go over the highlight there, and then go all the way up. Okay, that interior corner part. That kind of fades out. We'll have to do some erasing right there. Like that part got a little bit big. Okay, the highlight on the eyelids. They're super small circles, so that kind of blended in. Fade out to what we have. Kind of use my blender to outline a little bit. We might have to erase some of that out. I feel like that one got pretty light. Okay. Let's hop down to the chin area. So as I'm doing this, I'm kind of noticing that my blending isn't very smooth right in here. So I'm going to do another layer of blending in an opposite direction to try to smooth some of this out that I didn't before. And while we're here in this lip, okay, so you guys have your pencil erasers. This is a little thing to sweep, although we're going to be really careful with this white charcoal. These can be sharpened with your red sharpener. So because they're with a soft wood, and obviously the eraser is sharp, I don't want to do that right over my drawing, sorry. I'm going to sharpen just a little bit, not super, I mean they won't like super sharpen, but they'll sharpen more than like a dull tip. I'm going to go back. I'm going to draw that curvature of the top of his lip back in. So if you got a little too far, and then the downfall is you have these little eraser pieces. So I'm going to be careful and sweep those away. And then at the very end, I mean, this is the eraser we want to be using, but for small areas, it's hard to use that kneaded eraser. Okay. So underneath the crease on the chin, blending in multiple directions. And then I'm going to go all the way to the edge. And I'm going to go over that crease. I like that crease kind of. I'll have to draw that back in there. Go over it. And so as I'm blending above it, I'm going to bring that line down. So I'm going to kind of overlap a little bit more. It's like thinner than what we have it. Okay, let me kind of blend a little bit on the lips. I'm gonna go over the little lines first. Okay, so underneath I lost that shadow. I don't know if you did, but I did. So I'm gonna take my kneaded eraser, make a little point, like a little nub, and I'm going to draw that cast shadow right underneath the. So every time I touch it, it kind of bends, like it like just softens it. So every time, like after I erase a little, I come back and I reform, like repress it into a little cone. And I still feel like that wrinkle is a little bit too big. So, but it kind of curves up a little. And then bring that down. So I'm blending above it, and then I'm going to blend over it to soften. Okay, so then I'm looking at like this part, like here where we're going to kind of form the jawline, but it's going to be like, notice how this jawline is kind of faded, and then it fades into the total darkness. So I'm kind of keeping that in mind. Like I'm going to go along, and actually let's switch to the bigger blender. Together. So I am going in the direction. So oftentimes, like if you're working with, especially when you're working with like the cloth that you're wearing in your self-portrait, maybe the background, cheeks, above and below eyes, you can blend in the direction. And I feel like I need to restructure because I lost like this part, the angle right there. So I'm going to erase back out, form my kneaded eraser. And I feel like it kind of comes up a little that I lost. Okay, medium blender along the edge a little bit. Okay. And we'll probably use the kneaded eraser. I notice how there's like a darker outline here. I'm going to put that back in. But then also us doing the background, that'll become more obvious. Okay, I'm going to pull out just a little bit. Okay. And if you need to, you can gently, super gently kind of blend over to fade away. All right. I'm going to fade up onto the lip a little just because that skin is so similar compared to the lip. I'm going to turn my paper so I can get the edge of this cast shadow, and then we are going to blend over it because obviously the cast shadow is not black. It's the mustache that's black. So I must ask you to avoid the cast shadow for now. I should have looked up mustache jokes, and I could have been telling you mustache jokes the whole time. I was my dad with his dumb dad jokes. Okay. So this part here, extending from the lip is not obviously as dark as what we have, so we're going to gently blend over that. And it comes right up to the cast shadow, right up to the lip. And then on the outside, I'm going to definitely use a little bit more pressure to get that to fade. I still feel like that's pretty dark. Okay, let's add a little bit, tiny bit. Fade out to what we have. Just a little. And I feel like that's a little bit pointier. Like this, the highlight's a little bit pointier in here. Okay, let's blend all around the cast shadow and then we'll come back and go over it. So I'm really trying to keep a clean edge for the mustache. And the cast shadow. And the cast shadow kind of curves. Ooh, let me make that, let me bring that over a little bit. I just noticed that. Kind of curves over a little. Yeah, just a little bit. I was looking at like this part right here where it curves a little bit more. I didn't necessarily have that in mind. Okay, so over here, since it's kind of big, I'm going to switch blenders and I'm going to do a once over with the large one, even though I don't really like the large one. Let's give save ourselves some time and do a once over. And then I'll come back with the, okay, so let's do multiple directions. Yeah, just blend it in the mustache. Okay, switch back to medium. Blend over again. So I think that's key. Like, whereas with graphite, I feel like we needed to always add more graphite to get it to look smooth and like you're adjusting. I feel like with the white charcoal, it's almost like we need to add, like it's more layers of blending. Okay, I'm going to gently blend, but I'm going to kind of fade out when I get closer to the mustache because the cast shadow is darkest right underneath where it grows out of the upper lip. So lightening my pressure as I approach the mustache. I'm just going to draw that lighter edge that is there. And I'm going to soften the edge, so I'm going right along the edge. I feel like this part of the cheek's a little bit too dark on my picture. So I'm noticing like here, like this part's too dark. So I'm going to add a little bit there, although it does make them look a little bit creepier. So we could do a once over with the bigger blender. Switch to medium. Okay, yeah, that looks way better. Okay. All right, then I do still feel like I got, hold on, let me put this on this side so you can see both. I feel like I got a little bit, well, actually that doesn't look that bad. Well, I definitely want to erase out this. So I feel like I got a little bit too light over here, but maybe we'll just leave that for now. Oh, except, let me erase out the sideburns is what I think it is. Like little hairs kind of growing down. I see what I'm doing. I see what I'm doing wrong. It's because in the image it like Y's right here. And I don't have that, so I'm gonna draw that in. I must have just erased, just blended right over that. Oops. So we're gonna add that back in. That's why it looks like it was curving way over. Okay, be super careful sweeping away. If you can just blow it away, then that's fine. Okay, now I have the Y, but now it looks too dark, so go back over it. Okay, I was looking at the space between the mustache and that shadow to adjust. Let's go nose and under the nose. Under the nose. Okay, then we're going to blend over that crease to soften. Oh, okay, that looks pretty good. All right. Yay us. All right, around the nostril. Okay, so I feel like there is just the value that's like directly above the nostril. I'm gonna have to add a little bit of charcoal. So switch to your small blender. Okay, and it's so subtle in the shadow where there is like it slopes down. Okay, let me do some erasing out here. I feel like now the nostrils, it's more like a teardrop kind of, but it slants down a little bit more. So I don't love these erasers because they kind of mess up the paper. So we try to like limit how much we use that. If at all possible, use the kneaded eraser. So I think I'm going to try to so I pinched it to a little cone and then I'm going to smash it to make like a little sharp edge. I feel like if at all possible, use your kneader, and then I'm going to clean out the nostril. And I look at how like this value of this line kind of fades into the nose over here. And I feel like that's too light. So we'll make a little nub and we'll blot back out. And then blend back over. Okay, so he doesn't have like a really dark outline around that nostril, so I am going to be careful of the edge, but I'm going to blend into the cheek a little bit. And I think that side of the nose is too dark, so I'm going to add a thin layer before we start blending into the cheek. That way, or like underneath the eye. That way it super gentle. That way it transitions more easily. Okay. Small circles. Oh, this is the small one. Let's switch to the medium. Okay, fading into underneath the eye. Different directions to fade into what you have. I feel like this mustache still looks outlined. So I'm gonna add a thin layer fading out from the mustache into the cheek. That cheek can get a little lighter anyway. Okay, then I'm gonna kind of like just do a scooping kind of motion to unite that whole area. We'll have to take another look at that nose when we're done. All right. Lower eyelid, going all the way up to that waterline. So I'm going to turn it so my arm is comfortable. I can get right in there. Okay, then I'm going to fade up all the way to the waterline. And then, because that crease underneath the eye is not that dark, just like we did on the other side, I'm going to blend over it gently. I'm looking at how like it really kind of fades out as it gets closer to the tear duct. So then we have a little bit of a bag. Although over here, we'll adjust. I feel like we need to add a highlight, a little bit of a highlight on that side anyway. Okay. Or maybe we should do it now. Yeah, let's do it now before we really get into the eyes. Okay, so on the right-hand side, I feel like this is too big. It's really like not descript, but it's because in the image, it's lighter like right underneath that little scoop. So we're like losing that. And so it looks like it's just like dragging down his face over here. So I'm gonna put that scoop back in and then fade out into what we have. And then I'm gonna, while I have white charcoal, I'm gonna go over that highlight to soften that up. Still looks kind of stripey. I feel like that looks a little bit better though. All right, above the eye. So we're gonna go over where we put that highlight. And have fade a little bit more over. I feel like it's not as dark on the left-hand side of the left eye. We're going to perfect this in just a minute. This practice might go a little bit longer if we want to get the eyes done, which I do. That way the fourth practice is a little bit less. Or maybe we'll do one eye. We'll do one eye in this one and one eye in the next one. That way it's not as long. Okay, little circles, especially in the forehead, because that's like your biggest area. So you're really going to be able to tell if you didn't take your time and blend. So I'm kind of going like around the eyebrow, but I am going to start pulling in a little bit. I feel like that eyebrow got a little bit too big. We can erase out the little hairs, but I just want to be careful. Oh, that is eyebrow right there. Oh. And so do the skin around it like a once over. So I feel like we didn't spend a lot of time blending the forehead. We're getting a small muscle in the shoulder workout. You might have to stretch after this. Like, art is painful. A lot of artists like have back problems, neck problems from sitting there. You just have to stretch in between. Okay, so I'm gonna gently blend over this first. Actually, let me get this side. A little bit smudged in. Okay, so I'm gonna gently blend over this crease or wrinkle, because we can always add a little bit more, but we can't really, it's hard to take away in these tiny, tiny areas. Okay, then I'm gonna bring it in, so I'm gonna blend along the edge and kind of overlap what we were trying to avoid this whole time. probably end up adding a little bit because I feel like those are too big still. But for now, we will leave it. Okay, so then I am kind of looking, where do the wrinkles kind of end? Like, what do they line up with? So if we have his eye, hold on, let me put that vertical in front of him. His eye going up, or maybe we do the same angle as the angle of the eye on the outside. So if we do that, okay, so I do feel like over here I definitely need to blend over. There's more forehead space on that side. I'm just gonna kind of gently pull into his little gray hairs in the temple. I'm gonna pull up. Okay, gently blend over this top wrinkle, crease, whatever you wanna call it. We might leave them a little pronounced just because, like, you guys aren't really going to have forehead wrinkles, I would think, unless you really were making a face. So I don't know how many of you would actually. Okay, so in the center somewhat it kind of goes away. So let me take my bigger blender because it has a lot of it has a lot of charcoal on it. So in that center part, I'm going to kind of fade out. I feel like this area needs blended a little bit more on that upper left eye. It doesn't look very blended. Gotta push it into the paper a little bit more. And then of course we'll adjust it when we do the eye. Okay. Let's do one eyeball. Let's do the one on the right because there's less happening. Sharpen your charcoal pencil, and you're gonna need that little piece of sandpaper. So we're gonna super sharpen. Although I got pretty sharp. I don't know, you want like a definite point. I feel like I did pretty well. If you can't get yours to a definite point, what you could go back and do is kind of twist and rotate while you're going back and forth. And then of course don't do this over your drawing. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna put that little speck of light that we went over with pen so that I know to totally keep that intact. Then I'm going to really gently outline the pupil. Remember, you can always bring it in. So we're avoiding that pupil the whole time. Actually, let me zoom in on this. I feel like it's a little blurry. These cameras are not. They're not the best. Okay. Then I'm going to outline super gently the iris or the color part, because you can always go back and kind of bring it in. Okay, so I outlined the iris or the color part. Oh, that is blurry. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, so then I'm looking at the fact that there's like a little bit of a shadow underneath his lid, so I want to try to avoid that. I'm gonna go pretty light, especially in the upper right hand side. I'm looking how there's just a little sliver on the top left showing, and that little peak of a corner. On the inside. I'm getting along the edge of the eyeball, but I'm not pressing very hard. And really, we're gonna build that up and then go back in and add the shadow. Okay, so then I'm gonna avoid that waterline for now. And like in the inside of his eye, like right here, there's that little tear duct area, like where you get little eye boogers like stuck in there. I'm just gonna like put that in there. Actually, ooh, tiny blender. So sorry. I'm gonna touch on that tear duct part, but I do want to keep that dark edge underneath the eyelid. Okay, so just noticing we have this whole darker edge here that I did not leave alone. And so the highlight above here came down too low. So I'm gonna pull that back out. Well, let's try with this, but I don't have ultimate faith in this. Oh, and then for this eraser on the newspaper, I'm gonna wipe it off because it's picking up charcoal. Wipe it off. Go back with the kneaded eraser. I'm gonna outline it on the outside because that looks weird. Just so we have an edge to look at, and then we'll blend that later. Okay, so with the small blender, notice how his eyes, they're brown, but they're not, really dark brown. And he has a darker ring on the outside. So I am going to go around, as best I can, around the pupil. And I'm gonna fade out, but I'm not gonna fade out to the edge. Okay, and then super carefully pinch the kneaded eraser. I'm gonna into like a tiny pointy cone. And I'm gonna pull back out the pupil. I feel like my pupil needs to be a little bit bigger. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, now I'm gonna blend a little bit more above, and I think I need to bring in the iris a little bit. And remember, this is the part that we're not gonna blend because it's our last layer. So I'm adding that last layer, fading out, and then he has a little bit of a curved highlight on the right-hand side. So I'm actually gonna draw that in there. Leaving it. Okay, waterline. Oh, I'm so hesitant to do this waterline. I don't want it to be as light as the white eyeball, but it definitely does have to be lighter. He has very pronounced waterlines. Okay, we're going to be really careful blending over that. And then I am going to, yeah, okay, very careful blending over. So I didn't add very much because I didn't want it to get much lighter. And then I feel like the outside corner, like this corner right here, comes down a little bit further, kind of overlaps, like it tucks. The waterline like tucks into it. And then I'm gonna just go a little bit lighter with the eyeball. We're gonna fake it a little bit so it separates from the waterline. kind of fade up. Okay. Let's work on the crepiness of the skin and the eyebrow. So the super white parts I just really didn't touch. I did blend over that waterline. Guess I could go over that dot one more time. Not touching, not blending. All right, so with the kneaded eraser, I'm going to make it a cone, but then make it pointy, like a little, like make it a cone and then pinch it. And so every time you touch the paper, you need to re-pinch. So I feel like it's like he has a little bit more of a crease above. And then I feel like it just kind of fades out. So I'm gonna blot along the edge. It's not like a smooth edge. For that crepiness, same thing. I'm gonna make it a point, and then I'm just gonna kind of tap along this edge to get it to not be smooth. And then I feel like in here it's a little bit too light. And it's not very smooth. Okay, blend over that a little bit. Okay, eyebrows. So super gently, and I don't want to make his eyebrows too much smaller, and actually I feel like here I got in too close. So I'm gonna pinch my kneaded eraser and pull back out. And then pinch again. And then super gently with just your small blender, we're gonna kind of come back in and just pull some of the skin in. And then we'll take the pencil and do a lighter scoop outline there. And then I'm just gonna kind of, obviously it's not gonna be perfect, but nobody has eyebrows like this. So we'll kind of make that jaggedy outside. Pinching my blender, or sorry, pinching the kneaded eraser. So I made it into a little cone, and then I just pinch it flat. Okay. And then this area here, same thing. I'm going to turn it into a cone and then pinch it flat. And then I'm going to use the flat, sharp edge to erase out little hairs, or to pull out little hairs so it looks textury. So I'm going to flatten again. So it's fuzzy and textury. Okay, besides like this edge that we'll fix when we do the background, I feel like we're good. All right, on part, ooh, we're gonna have to go pretty fast in part 4, which is okay. But now that we kind of like walked through it and talked through it, it'll be faster. All right, so next video will be part 4. We're gonna finish up, and you're going to think about what mark making technique you want to add on top of a layer of value. So you're gonna kind of practice. It doesn't have to be all the mark making that we learned. I'm going to do some different stuff with the eraser to show you, but think, do I want like a horizontal linear? Would I want just splotchiness? Do I want a diagonal slight linear? Do I want cross hatching, etc.?